Furthermore, the monks remains focused on mental qualities in and of themselves with reference to the sixfold internal and external sense media. And how does he remain focused on mental qualities in and of themselves with reference to sixfold internal and external sense media? There is a case where he discerns the eye, he discerns forms, he discerns the fetter that arises dependent on the both. He discerns how there is the arising of the unarisen fetter, and he discerns how there is abandoning of a fetter once it has arisen, and he discerns how there is no future arising of fetter that has been abandoned. And the same paragraph is repeated for ear, for nose, for tongue, and for body and intellect or the mind as well. So as you know, this is the topic that we started in the last session, last week. And in that, we took the basics or the introduction to this internal and external sense media or the sense faculties, or in some books mentions that sense spheres as well. And if I just refresh what they are, as we just mentioned, the internal sense faculties are eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the intellect. And the external objects that correspond to each of these sense faculties are: for the ear, it is forms. For the eye, it is forms. For the ear, it is sound. And for the nose, it is aroma. For the taste, it is for the tongue, it is taste. For the body, it is tactile sensation. For the intellect, it is the mind objects. And we discussed in the last session that these are called faculties because they have a specific function and which cannot be done by any other faculty. It is like a faculty in the university. When you have a law faculty cannot teach medicine or engineering or accounting or any other specialized area. Similarly, medicine can't do the other things. So the same way, these faculties are also having similar function. The eye can't hear, the eye can't taste, I can't smell, I can't have tactile sensation, I can't think. Similarly, the other faculties, they have a specific function and only that specific function can be done. And to do that specific function, as in the case of universities, the faculties fight each other. And even in our case, in the case of a human being or in the case of any other animal, these faculties are fighting each other. And that is why there's something called tension, something called stress, something called disappointment, something called depression arises. Because the faculties are fighting, we don't know, and we get the burden of it. And what Buddha does is clearly demarcating the boundaries and understanding the process, understanding what is going on. So to show the significance of these faculties, we discussed in the last session, taking some discourses that the Blessed One has preached, this Blessed One has presented during his time. And there are a lot of such discourses in the connected discourses. And there's one discourse which says, the Blessed One is saying, if I call something that is all, he says, it is only his sense faculties and the corresponding objects to those sense faculties. There is nothing that does not come within that sphere. So if someone considers all, and the all for that person is only the thing that he can see, he can hear, he can taste, he can smell, the tactile contacts he can have, and the daydreaming he can do, based on the other 5 faculties. And if there is anything that has not come in contact with those faculties, or that will not come, or that is not active at present, then it is not all for him. So to do that, what we do is we develop so many things to see as far as we can, and to check as detailed as we can, right? We call it microscope, we call it, what do you call the one that you see far away? Telescope, and all sorts of things are being manufactured to enlarge it, to amplify it, and to see as detailed as possible. And it's just for the vision. And if you take the other faculties, or hearing and tasting, there is no difference. If you take tasting, for example, when you make ice cream, you put vanilla, you put something else, you put honey, and ultimately you don't know what you're eating, right? So they try to create as many things as possible to satisfy our taste buds. So therefore, the Blessed One says, faculties, internal faculties and corresponding external objects are the all for each and every living being. And therefore, you have a delight in it. And so long as you have a delight, and you will not come out of it. And because of the delight, because you are trying to maintain that delight continuously, and whether you like it or not, you continue your suffering, because that delight cannot be maintained. It is not permanent. It happens only because of the conditions are provided. So you'll have to struggle yourself to provide those conditions. That struggle is called the suffering. So therefore, the Blessed One says, suffering arises because of this delight. And therefore, we are chained, we are prisoned into these internal, external faculties without our knowledge. So therefore, to abandon those fetters, one will have to understand that these are impermanent in the sense they arise when the conditions are satisfied. And if you can see that, then it is an abandoning. You can't just see that. You will have to walk on the path. Just by reading a book, just by listening to sermon, you will get the intellectual understanding of it. That's all. You will not get the experiential understanding. To get the experiential understanding of, okay, you will have to do the practice. You'll have to walk on the path. Walking on the path in the sense, you'll have to do your mindful walking, mindful sitting. And that paves the way for you to see this impermanence, and then make an opportunity for you to see the fetters that we are involved in. And not only just seeing the impermanence of it, you can uproot them all together, not just abandon. Abandon means it is there and you are moving with it. But you can uproot it. How you can uproot it is, when the impermanence is seen, when you see the impermanence, and if you can completely be away from that impermanence, if you don't give any value to that experience, and if you don't identify yourself with that experience, then there is no you involved in it. Therefore, you completely, not only just abandon, you completely uproot that fetter. And it is not just the fetter. Any defilements, any slightest defilement, which we call taints, are also abandoned and uprooted. So we discussed them in detail about this in the last session. And also there was another nice story that we discussed in the last session, which is the story in Indriya Bhavana Sutta. Indriya Bhavana Sutta means the discourse on the development of faculty. And in that, Uttara, a student of another ascetic, comes and meets the Buddha, and the Blessed One is asking whether his teacher is teaching development of faculties. Then this Uttara, the student, says, yes, of course he does. And then the Blessed One is asking, how is he doing? Then the student says, there is a case where one does not see forms with the eye or hears sounds with the ear, etc., etc. He keeps on saying. Then the Blessed One quietly smiles and tells this person, that being the case, Uttara, a blind person will have developed faculties, and deaf person will have developed faculties. And to develop faculties, we will have to just remove our internal faculties. So therefore, a dead person is completely enlightened because his faculties are not working at all. Right? So when this was said, Uttara was shocked and he was very silent, and he was just simply looking for a place to hide. Then after that, Lord Buddha says, when he says that to Venerable Ananda, that is the teaching of Parasariya, but my teaching is something else. And then Venerable Ananda says, please tell us that, my Lord. Then he explains how he teaches the development of faculties based on the individual. And when we give instructions to individuals, individuals are at varying levels. There will have individuals who have just started the training, and for them, how he is teaching and how he is advising, instructing. And there will have someone who has been practicing and who is on the path, right? And he has attained certain, at least the first stage. And for that person, a different instruction. And if someone is fully arahant, then how is managing his internal faculties? The Blessed One has taught in the development of faculties discourse. So this is what we discussed in the last session. I'm not going to go into detail what the Blessed One said in development of faculties, but similar thing is taught to us in here, where in 4 foundations of mindfulness. In 4 foundations of mindfulness, he's telling us how you can see the faculties. And to see these faculties, I will remind you, you can't just repeat it. You can't just do it. It is something that should happen as part of your living, as a way of living. So therefore, the restrainment of faculties, or rather than saying restrainment of faculties, development of faculties, Blessed One is teaching at the last part of identifying an individual. When I say at the last part in identifying an individual, what we do in mindfulness is we try to understand me. We try to understand the person called I. For us to do that, the Blessed One is doing that in 2 stages. One stage is in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. He says, observe the body as body, observe the feelings as feelings, observe the mind as mind. So that is the first stage. That is the primary stage. And then when we get to, when we pass those, when we master those, when we are sufficiently trained in these 3 areas, body, feelings, and the mind, then he takes the final layer of a living being. The final layer of a living being is the aggregates, the clinging aggregates, which means name and form. In detail, if I signpost, it is form, sensation, or other feelings, and perception, mental volition, and consciousness. So that's again another way a living being is identified. So you can discuss, you can understand that only once you have mastered body, feelings, and the mind at its primary level, at its basic level. And then you go to a deeper layer, which is the aggregate. And even after understanding that, only he comes to the real active part of a living being. Right? We involve with the society, we involve with the world, we involve with the universe with our faculties. Blessed One is not straight away touching that. He is gradually reducing it, reducing our attention to the basic things and the finer things, and then finally he tells us, now you have the skill to bring your attention to your faculties. Until such time, he does not touch that. One may see if the faculties, internal faculties and external objects are the whole, then we will might as well straight away start that. Then what happens is a vehicle that is going so fast on the autobahn, you try to suddenly stop. And I should not tell you what happens if you suddenly stop such a fast vehicle. So Blessed One is not doing that. He's gradually slowing it down, take the right exit and change the gears and gradually let the vehicle stop. And then you can open the bonnet. Then you can remove the parts and then see how it works. That is what he's doing here. So to do that, what he says is what I just repeated, which is the Blessed One says, there is the case where he discerns the I. When the I is active, he understands clearly that my I is active now. Now, before that, before practicing, we don't know what is active. It's all over the shop. But now, once you practice and once you are to a certain extent concentrated or with yourself, you are mindful of what is going on, then you will have an opportunity. See, okay, now my other faculties are not active. In this particular case, my I is active. Or if you take this particular moment, and for you, your ear is active, right? And then he says, he discerns the forms. If the I is active, he definitely knows I can be active only with form, right? A visual object, right? So he discerns that as well. He understands that as well. And then he discerns the fetter that arises dependent on both. When these two are together, then the shackle starts, then the chain starts, then the prison starts. It's a process. It's a big combination of prisoning us into or chaining us into. And that is why he calls here a fetter that arises depending on both. Internal, external objects met, and then the fetter arises. And once that arises, now he has the ability to see that it is going on. And that is why some people say, especially not with the eye, when they practice, they know that they are going with their thoughts. Because when you sit and practice, or when you walk, you may have a lot of thoughts. That is because now you have the ability to see that you are hooked on it, and the current is so fast, the flooding is so fast, and you are going with it. Blessed One says that's okay, so long as you know it. And here we are talking in the case of eye. And not only that, he says, he discerns how there is the arising of an unarisen fetter. And if there is something that has not arisen, you are walking or you are observing your breath, suddenly unarisen things comes up. When it comes up, you are aware of that as well. He discerns how there is the arising of an unarisen fetter, right? And he discerns how there is the abandoning of a fetter once it has arisen. So when it has arisen, and you just keep observing, and you see what has arisen gradually fades away. It not just fades away, also you will be able to observe once it fades away how it affects your body as well. So it's both the physical and mental involvement you will be able to observe, right? So also he says he discerns how there is no future arising of a fetter that has been abandoned. So this does not mean that when something abandoned once, that will never arise. A similar thing will arise once again. But that particular thing that arose and that faded away before your eyes is completely gone. It will not occur again. But something similar to that will happen later. But now you have the ability to see. So this is how the Blessed One is teaching to develop the faculties. Not to remove the faculties from your body or not to shape the outside world. Blessed One says, leave both that as it is, but you go through it. See the process. And once you see the process, you are not hooked. You are not slave to them. Now they are getting under your control. They are coming under your control. So this is how the Blessed One is teaching development of faculties. So today I want to specifically talk about the eye, why the Blessed One is taking eye first. The reason is that it is so significant. The eye is the one that is most closest to our brain, right? It is for human beings, especially, that is the one that takes as much defilement as possible. But for some other animal, eye may not be that significant and they may have something else close to the brain, right? But for human beings, that is the one that takes all the defilements, or as much defilements as possible. So if you see something, you can go and produce that to any place. You can produce that as evidence even in court of law. It is so strong, and that is the confirmation. I is giving you the confirmation. If you just say that you heard it, it will not have that much of validity. But if you see something, then you can give the entire picture. And not only that, if you take a photograph or a video of it, you have 100% proof, right? And therefore, when we go on holidays, we take all these gadgets, because just seeing won't do. We want to bring them home as well, and then keep seeing them. Once you retire, you don't have anything else to do. And all these old photos old videos are coming in the Facebook after that. And see, when I was 18, when I was 20, when I was 21, and all that is coming after 60, 65. Right. So that is how our eye faculty is dominating everything for human being. So it is not only that, this eye faculty is also used to confirm or to establish the other sense faculties as well. Say, for example, the television, its main task is to show pictures. Something is happening somewhere, because eye is so important, and I can take, or I can create as much defilements as possible. The television is very important to create defilements in the minds of people, right? So, but in television, it is not just the visual that you see is not just satisfying your eye. They are advertising about ice cream. They are advertising about sausages. They are advertising about a lot of food. And the food is not to your eye. Food is to your tongue. But the television is used. Its vision is used to establish the tongue faculty. And you show it, and you show the facial expression of people who are consuming it, and how it is made and all that. So with that, the tongue faculty is established. And similarly for the ear. For the ear, say for example, a song. If they are just playing a song in the TV, they will not just play the song, right? There will have so much of decorations on the stage, and there will have people covering areas that should not be covered and opening areas that should be covered, and all lightings will be there, and it makes so much visual than the sound, right? So, but actually what they do is they are playing a song, but the song or the ear faculty or the sound is established, is given more strength by introducing a lot of visuals to the eye. So we don't know whether we are watching the song or whether we are listening to the song, right? So therefore, eye is also used to establish other sense faculties. So therefore, the television business has gone from strength to strength, and especially our kids, they record all the movies that are going on in Netflix and Thatflix and this play that which we don't know, to come and watch when they come home. So when they come home, the time is not enough for them to finish the movies that are recorded. And it has become so complex. So Blessed One has to show the strength of the eye, or in other words, the eye faculty is mainly associated with the form, because I can see in the sense I will be able to recognize shapes and mainly the colors, right? So which we call form in this case. So there is a discourse called form discourse, or measurement of form discourse. In Pali we call it Rupappamana Sutta. In Rupappamana Sutta, in numerical discourses, the Blessed One says, because there are these 4 kinds of persons found existing in the world. What 4? Number 1, one who judges on the basis of form. So when we judge something in the world, Blessed One says in the world, the number one is the form. So this is why when we find a partner, should be beautiful, should be smart, right? That is the form, right? It's whether we like it or not, that's how it works. So the form is the number one deciding factor. I'm not going into the other details. I just want to bring this point up. So because of this reason, because the form is the main criteria to decide things, just go back and try to recollect how many gyms were there when we were growing up. How many beauty parlors were there when we were growing up? And how many gyms and beauty parlors we have now when we just drive 10 kilometers? This particular thing that the Blessed One has said 2,600 years ago is still true. And is going from strength to strength. It is being confirmed over and over again. And that we call development. And that we call creativity. That we call innovation. And we have all sorts of gadgets to build our muscles. We have all sorts of gadgets to keep our body slim. We have all sorts of paste and sticky things to make our face beautiful, right? So therefore the eye, all this is done to satisfy our eye, to present ourselves with a better form, right? So therefore the Rupapamana Sutta is confirming the significance of eye when it comes to our faculties. And one may argue why you are so critical about eye. And having an eye is a very important thing for someone to live. And having a healthy eye means a healthy man. And therefore, what is wrong in satisfying eye as much as possible? And that's a good question. Trying to satisfy our eye as much as possible. It's okay if you can satisfy your eye. Is there anyone who has said before death, I have finished satisfying my eye, I finished satisfying my ear and the other faculties? Nobody, except for the Blessed One and the Arahants. All others have a little bit, which is not completed. And for some, it's not little bit. They don't know that there is something called satisfying eye, satisfying our faculties. So therefore, you have a healthy eye, not just to satisfy it. The Blessed One has given the human body to go through these faculties and understand how they work. By understanding that, you will be not satisfying. You will stop suffering because of that. You will stop suffering because of the ear. You will stop suffering because of the nose and other tactile sensations. Now, we have been satisfying all these things for so many years. Now, at this age, we know it has been a bottomless bucket. Kept on doing it, but once you finish one, and another thing comes up. So, eye is a bucket that can never be satisfied because it does not have a bottom. Similarly for the other faculties as well. So therefore, having a healthy eye is to understand Dhamma. The Blessed One has said that only those who have their faculties intact can understand my Dhamma. If your faculties are not intact, you can't understand my Dhamma. And it's a requirement, especially to ordain. And one of my friends wanted to ordain, and he was having a bit of a deformity, and he was denied. He was not taken. And what is the reason for you to have healthy faculty, healthy sense media? The reason is you should be able to get all the defilements as possible for your senses. That is why you are given this faculty. And when the defilements come, then only you can see whether you are defiled by them or whether you are able to keep them at bay. So if the eye faculty or faculties are not working, you can't do that. In other words, there is no match when there is no bowler. The batsman is at the crease with the bat, but no one is bowling, there is no match. So the Blessed One is saying, there should have a bowler, there should have a batsman, then the match goes on. And you can prove me that you can win the match. And that is why you need healthy faculties. So it is not just to keep indulging in them, but just to see your strength to go beyond the demands of those faculties. Right. And once Brahman called Jata Bharadwaja met the Blessed One. And this is the discourse that is coming in connected discourses. The sutta itself is called Jata Sutta, the tangle. And this is a very famous one that you may have heard. It is Anto Jata Bahijata Jatai Jatita Paja Tantang Gotama Puchami Koimang Vijate Jata. Is what is the question that Jata Bharadwaja asked, right? What it means is, after exchanging greetings with the Blessed One, the Jata Bharadwaja is asking this question. Anto Jata means a tangle within. Bahijata means a tangle without. Jatai Jatita Paja means people are entangled in a tangle. And then he's asking, Tang Tang Gotama Puchami Ko Imang Vijate Jata. It means, Sir, Blessed Gotama, I ask you this, who can unentangle this tangle? Then the Blessed One is saying, a man established in virtue, developing discernment in and of the mind, a monk ardent and astute, he can unentangle this tangle. Right? So when you see this, when you hear this, it may not see a big one, but it has a very deep meaning. Right? A man established in virtue. A man established in virtue means when we walk, when we sit, we are completely established in virtue. Maybe before that, we may have been drinking, or we may have been stealing, or we may have been lying, right? Or we may have killed some ants and mosquitoes. But while walking and sitting, during that period, during that 45 minutes or 1.5 hours altogether, we haven't done anything as such. So during that period, you are established in virtue. So what the Blessed One says is, a man established in virtue. So to unentangle the tangle, the first requirement is that. And that is what we do here. And he is not saying that unentanglement has to be done for 100 years or 1,000 years or so many years. No. A man who is established in virtue. It can happen in thought moments. And that thought moment is enough for us to cross the river. That is how Angulimala was able to cross the river. He had killed 999. But he was not asked to, you had killed so many people and go and become a virtuous person and come. No. Blessed One knew you need only thought moments to establish in virtue, and it can be done, those who practice. It can be done by the skillful people. And developing discernment in and of the mind. Now, in this case, Blessed One is talking about the mind, right? So, when I say the mind, because all this entanglement is happening not in the physical sphere. It is in the mental sphere. In the physical sphere, what happens is eye meets a form, and ear meets a sound, gets in contact with the sound. Nose gets in contact with the smell. Tongue gets in contact with the taste. So that's the physical layer. And after that, everything else gets jumbled up within the mind, in the mind. So Blessed One says, developing discernment in the mind. So developing discernment in the mind means you develop your mindfulness. Your mind is made of all sorts of things. Your defilements, as well as the spirituality is also in the mind. Right? So when you are mindful, you develop the discernment in the mind to see that. Right? And developing discernment of the mind, how this damn thing is working. Apologies for my language. He can see because now he is developing his mind. So by developing the mind, he understands the mind itself and coming out of the entanglement of the mind. And that is what we do. And that person, ardent, he should work in such a way, he should be enthusiastic enough, he should be energized enough not to get involved in likings and dislikings. He should not go away from being an observer. He should not try to achieve anything. Just become an observer. That is the ardency that we are talking about here. An astute, he should have the ability to see where it is going, whether I am getting bogged down in something or whether I am developing hatred towards something. So he should be able to have the correct assessment when he is energized in the practice to get rid of defilements or to be away from the defilement. So such a person will be able to gain the discernment in and of the mind. So if that happens, he will go through these things and not get entangled. So, and there are a few other things the Blessed One has mentioned, but I'm not going to take them now here. So I'm not quite sure what the time is. Yes. How we do this is, and if I start how we do it, it will take at least another half an hour to 45 minutes. So therefore, I'm not going to do it now. And I would prefer to have it for the next session. How our practice is the walking and sitting is untangling this. How we develop the faculties or go through the faculties by doing walking and sitting. So I will leave that for the next session and hope I was able to take one more step from the introduction that we had in the last week. So we will try to take another step from here in the next session. using our practice and how our experience will help. So with that, I would like to conclude the session. May you all be blessed with the noble triple gem. Everyone, Sarna. And with that, I would like to ask whether there is any question.
All right. This is relating to walking meditation, and the way I'm now doing walking meditation is like I start walking, relax, and very quickly I come off from the, like I just don't feel any longer like the touch of the feet, and I continue my meditation. And at some point, like I was having these thought processes, and I was able to look at a little bit deeper. It's just not putting a lot of effort, but and then I start to see where these thoughts starting, and with these when I see a little bit further, I can realize that these thoughts originating from different senses, like, and the first time today, like I can feel the switching process. It's a bit of a fast thing. I didn't expect actually these sense faculties switching in this fast. Like it's like at some point something smelling, and sometimes it's wrapped around by the air, and feeling entire body, and at some time it's sense the mental faculty itself, like thinking about presenting something or thinking about the whole process, and then coming back again, and back to the feet again. And what I'm trying to do here is like be a neutral observer, and but I was a bit shocked with the speed of it, and I give up at some point. Like, do I need to mindful into this process, or just going back and being calm, or trying to bring my attention into something else? I need a bit of advice here. What should I do? Yeah.
Yeah, the question is very clear, but there are 2 points that needs clarification. One is during your walk, what the impression I got was, when the thought process was going on, you have intentionally paid your attention to that, right? And to see what is happening. So I presume that it was done because you no longer feel anything on the walking, right? So shifting your attention to the most prominent thing is fine and is acceptable. And when you do that, what you have observed is exactly what the Blessed One is saying. And it is moving so fast. And that is why that Jata Bharadwaja is saying it is entangled in, entangled within, and entangled without as well. Right? We are in entanglement and we don't know. But now, because of the mindfulness, we have the patience, we have the opportunity to thin slice things. Our mind is sharp enough. But when you try to observe this, you yourself get fed up. How fast it is, and why the hell I became mindful. Because of the mindfulness only, you can see the speed, right? It's like, watching a very fast moving train, right? You can't see, but here, the thought process is even faster than the light. Our mind is now, our mindfulness is faster than that. And that is why we are able to see this. But we don't like. Because in seeing that, when you become, you said you try to become a neutral observer. When you try to become neutral, then the mind doesn't like. Mind wants your involvement. Take the sword and then take the bombs and fight with it. Right? So when you're neutral and then you nicely wrapped up, saying you want to be calm, mind is introducing that objective into your head. Mindfulness is not to become calm. Mindfulness is just to observe what is happening. And you have been doing that. And you will have to observe it until such time they get fed up and not that you get fed up. Then only you move away from them. And what happens is now, because you try to look for calmness, because your mind had that, then you have given a value to that process. Right? How you have given value means not that you have overvalued or given a high estimate. You started hating it. That's the value you have given. Right? So then it establishes. But not 100%. It's unlike earlier. You are able to see it. And after seeing for some time only this happens. So if you can observe that, another thought moment next time, that's how we progress. We don't go 100 miles in one shot. You come already a long way. We go a thought moment at a time. And that accumulates. That accumulates until it breaks the back of the camel. Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a vision that I hope like I will calm down. Yeah, just
I give a value to the being calm down. Like that's, I have my purpose. Like it's, but what I got it is trying to do meditation is completely opposite. Like it's not. But I think I will go through with this with a lot of effort and trying to walk slowly and thank you for the advice.
Yeah, again, it is not necessary to walk slowly. Go at the normal pace. And we all have lived with an ambition. And even we come to the practice with an ambition. Right? Ambition is necessary to go on the path. And for some people it is more, and for some people it is less. So knowing that we are ambitious is the only thing that is necessary, not that to remove it, right? And when you are fed up with observing the thoughts, right? And if you feel, if your mind is suggesting now you go to your main object and become calm, just be aware of that as well. Then it loses its strength, right? And it will come to a point that that thoughts will be there, and that will also become like you're walking. Now you're walking, but you don't care, you don't bother about it. And then because you have moved out of it. And even the thoughts, when you move out of it, and thoughts also will be there. You are going in between. So that's the middle part. All these nonsense are there. We don't get hooked onto anything.
The problem with that is when you go out of the thoughts, like the taste or like a favor of thoughts is getting down. Like it just sometimes become bored. Like because you are removing the your element, like a me element, from the thoughts, and then it's gradually goes to die. Like I know that I'm not feeding into it. It goes and settle and land, and it goes or disappears. It doesn't have fun. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, that fun part is the one that mind is somehow trying to suggest to have, right? So this is why I said, when the mind is suggesting that go and have calmness, just aware of that. Then the ignorance that you have in that moment also is taken care by the light of the mindfulness. You don't try to remove anything. You just bring mindfulness to that. And your mind may suggest, okay, you go and have some enjoyment and do this. Just be aware of it. But the mind is suggesting, and it will come to a point. Mind is coming out with so much of such suggestion, and we will be able to simply laugh. And that is why Buddha is having this slightly laughing face, because he sees the magic of the mind. Right. Thank you. Any other comments, criticisms, complaints, reports? So I presume there are no other points to discuss. Presuming so, we can share the positive energies we have generated today from 45 minutes of walking and 45 minutes of sitting, to share those positive energies with the rest of the beings in the universe. We will chant the traditional stanzas. I would like to chant them in Pali. Otherwise, I will have to take the English translation. So doing it in Pali is convenient. So we'll do it in Pali. Everyone can chant it Tavataja.